Elbama ma'am, now you can start ma'am.
Okay, Sophia.
Okay. I have sent the YouTube link also ma'am to you through WhatsApp.
Thank you, Sophia.
Okay. Okay. You can proceed.
Welcome every day with a smile. Look on the new day as another special gift from your creator, another golden opportunity to complete which you were unable to finish yesterday. Be a self-starter, set the themes of success and positive action. Today will never happen again. Yes, this opportunity will never happen again. I thank our creator for this special gift. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Eril Bama, Assistant Professor of Botany, Sri Kandasamy Naidu College for Women, Kadalur. I greatly acknowledge the support rendered by the interim administrator and the Secretary of Pache Past Trust and our Principal, Dr. K. Mullai. Honorable Chief Guest of today's webinar, Madam Principal, committee members, IQAC team members, heads of all departments of CKN College, dear colleagues, non-teaching staff, beloved students, and all enthusiastic participants. On behalf of the staff and students of the Department of Botany, I extend my warm greetings to you all. With changing weather patterns and rising global temperatures, increasing number of extreme weather events have become the new norm, especially in tropical countries like India. Indian subcontinent is more prone to coastal hazards, and the impact is being felt by 3/4 of the country's population, which is settled along the coast. Coastal hazards have tremendously increased the vulnerability of the population living below the poverty line. Even we ourselves have witnessed great natural calamities and a number of cyclones such as tsunami, Ohi, Thane, Ampan, and so on. The previous year, 2019 itself, has seen almost all parts of India suffer a wide range of natural disasters, from excruciating heat waves to record number of cyclones, extremely long dry phases to record-breaking amounts of rainfall. From flash floods to cyclones, climate-related disasters have compounded COVID-19 crisis in South Asia in the current year. Mitigation efforts to reduce loss of life and property by lessening the impact of disaster is the need of the hour. In order for mitigation to be effective, we need to act now before the next disaster to reduce human and financial loss. Having this in mind, we have arranged this webinar titled Disaster Mitigation Through Ecosystems Management in commemoration of International Day for Conservation of Mangrove Ecosystem, which is being celebrated on 26th of July every year. Winning is fun, but those moments that can touch someone's life in a very positive way are better. We are lucky to have the resource person, Dr. Deva Aswin Stanley, a renowned environmentalist, marine scientist, and ecologist, who is a winner, and not only a winner, she is ready to touch our lives in a positive way. I am much grateful to her for graciously accepting our invitation. I'm sure a unique awesomeness and positive energy inspire confidence in us. We have participants from almost all the states and a few union territories of India and also from abroad. Dear participants, thank you for your response. Please stay with us till the end. Surely you and your society will be benefited a lot. I'm sure of that. Feedback link will be shared in the chat box towards the end of the session. For the YouTube viewers, it will be in the description box. Please fill up and submit the form. Only then you will get the e-certificate and Your feedback is much more essential for us and it will help us to upgrade ourselves. Thank you. Small cheer, great welcome makes a merry feast. Mrs. T. Vasanti, head of the Department of Botany, is here to make merry feast. Welcome, madam.
Thank you. To plant a seed is to believe in tomorrow. With spring in my step, curiosity in mind, anticipation in heart. On this glittering evening, I, Mrs. T. Vasanti, Associate Professor of Botany, extend a hearty welcome to everyone. Good evening. This topic selected by our department suits the present day situations and creates awareness for disaster preparedness and natural resource management. On behalf of our Sri Kandaswamy Naidu College for Women, Kadalur, I am privileged to welcome all of you to the brainstorming session. Our college has a noble vision for educating rural girls to become self reliant and truly empowered to meet national and global challenges with sound value system that promotes responsible citizenship to effect desirable social change. We are on track according to our mission, accomplishing to empower socially and economically unprivileged girls through holistic education. It's my pleasure and utmost duty to welcome our interim administrator and secretary of Pachepa's Trust for providing us a wonderful platform. It's my privilege to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Deva Aswin Stanley, who is a coastal ecologist, an eminent personality, a successful woman, and a good human being. Born and brought up in India, and now renders her service to people all over the world. The positive and courageous attitude made her life to succeed. I am the best. I can do it. And what next? I am the winner. Today is my day. And God is with me. I can do everything. These characters brought her in the highest pedestal. I am also proud to inform that we had been friends since 1989, where we had the opportunity to study MSc in Annamalai University. I am delighted to offer the most hospitable welcome to Dr. Aswin. I am honored to welcome our principal, the lifeblood of our college, who sleeps less and works more in planning for the betterment of our esteemed institution. I am sure her dedication would bring this institution stand for its excellence. My cordial welcome to you, madam. I extend my warm welcome to our committee members, IQAC team members, my fellow staff of the department and college. The most pleasant moment is to welcome the participants from various academic and research institutions, faculties and students. Without you, the program would not succeed. I am proud and fortunate to welcome you all. Please pay attention to whatsoever been discussed during the webinar session and utilize the information to improve your knowledge and skill sets. Welcome again. A beautiful plant is like having a friend around the house. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Let us plant a tree as they are the world's air conditioning system. Thank you.
If the sight in your heart says welcome, the love will come pouring in from. Thank you, madam, for your sincere and hearty welcome address. Giving encouragement to others is the most welcome gift. For the result of it are lifted spirits, increased self-worth, and a hopeful future. It aptly applies to a principal who has been a constant and continuous encouragement to the staff and students in leading a hopeful future. Let me invite our principal, Dr. K. Mulai, to deliver the presidential address. Please, madam.
Thank you, Mama. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. IQAC coordinators, honored guests, faculty members of Department of Botany, colleagues, and our distinguished students and faculty members of other institutions. Good evening and welcome. It's my very great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of CKNC to the webinar on disaster mitigation through coastal ecosystem management. This topic is doubly interesting to the Cuddalore coastal area as it has seen a lot of havoc recently. Amidst of his pandemic and unassured times, it is really reassuring to think about a sustainable future for disaster management. I extend my warmest congratulations to everyone whose efforts made this webinar even during a pandemic lockdown. It is indeed my privilege and my pleasure to welcome our eminent chief guest, Dr. Deva Ashwin Stanley. She is a refined scholar and charismatic human being. Her scholarship in integrated coastal system management is fact and enriching. She has been a consultant to various national and international organizations. We are extremely delighted to have you with us, madam. Asia is one of the regions hardest hit by natural hazards and in which the vast population settled in both urban and rural coastal areas are particularly vulnerable. Global climate changes expected to increase the frequency and intensity of climate related hazards. Healthy ecosystems play a vital role in this regard. Coastal ecosystems and associated watersheds provide a wide range of services to coastal communities, including food provision, natural shoreline protection against storms and floods, and flood regulation, among others. These services are fundamental to building community resilience to coastal hazards, yet they are under threat from a variety of sources. This discussion on building global ecosystem for disaster mitigation is the need of the hour, especially for a disaster-prone coastal area like Cuddalore. I am very glad that all the departments of our college have arisen to the occasion by organizing various webinars. Let us to join them are the students and faculties of Department of Botany. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you and welcome to one and all.
Plant seeds of happiness, hope, success, and life. It will all come back to you in abundance. This is the law of nature. Thank you, madam, for planting those seeds. Thank you. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our chief guest and resource person, Dr. Deva Ashwin Stanley. She is an environmentalist, marine scientist, integrated ecosystem management, and mangrove ecologist with more than 20 years of professional experience in various coastal habitats and projects. She is an accredited functional area expert for ecology and biodiversity by the Quality Council of India, NABET. She holds a PhD degree and MPhil degree in marine biology and oceanography and postdoctorate from the University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur. She was the MPhil research scholar of Dr. Kadirasan as well. She is consultant to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Asian Development Bank, Port MacDonald, AECOM, ANZDAC, and others. She has also worked with the Gujarat Ecology Commission, Gujarat Institute of Desert Ecology, and several NGOs possess vast experience in disaster relief and community-based rehabilitation activities during the major natural disasters such as Orissa Super Cyclone 1999, Gujarat earthquake in 2001, and tsunami 2004. She has worked in multiple countries including GPR Korea, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and has traveled to 17 countries. She has more than 2 decades of academic and research experience on disaster risk management, food security, rural development, and capacity building. Possess in-depth technical knowledge and experience in the fields of agriculture, agroforestry, forestry, fisheries, livestock husbandry, coastal and marine biology, ecology, and ecosystems restoration. Dr. Oswin has authored 3 books and 2 integrated mangrove management plans published by the UN FAO, Myanmar, on the reserved mangrove forest in 2010 to 2011. 4 chapters for Zoological Survey of India, and co-authored Climate Change Adaptation Guidelines for Coastal Protection and Management in India, funded by GEF and ADB in 2018, and Dune Management, Operation and Maintenance Manual for the Government of Karnataka in 2020. Her contribution is not only related to science, but to arts too. She has translated a book on men's health in Tamil, On Ulagam, Udal Manam Arogyam, and a book of poetry, Saliyada Tendralgal. She has several awards and accolades to her credits. Thus the list goes on. We have such a great resource person for this program. It is now the time of the resource person. Let us enjoy the session and get rejuvenated. Participants, post your queries in the chat box or raise hand. Don't forget to send the feedback. The feedback for YouTube viewers will be in the chat box. Please remember. Now it is the time for the resource person. Welcome, madam.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome speech. And let me
Welcome,
share
madam.
first. Can you see that?
Yes, madam.
Your welcome is pleasing. A warm welcome indeed. I'm much flattered. Good evening, everyone. Words cannot explain the happiness and joy I had when Dr. Vasanthi, head of the Department of CKN College, invited me to present in the webinar. Thank you for the opportunity, Mrs. Vasanthi. My special thanks are due to the principal, Dr. Mullai, organizing secretary, Dr. Elil Bama, and the coordinators, Drs. Sridevi and A. Sridevi and Dr. Amudavalli. I could understand the efforts and time they have put in making the occasion a grand success. It's truly a privilege to speak in the national webinar on disaster mitigation through coastal ecosystems management. It's a pleasure to thank all the participants here connected online who are paying careful attention to my speech. Well, let's go to the topic. Disaster mitigation through coastal ecosystems management. I'm Dr. Oswin. A disaster is a sudden calamitous event that seriously disrupts the functioning of a community or a society and causes human, material, economic, or environmental losses that exceed the community's or society's ability to cope using its own resources. It's classified into natural disasters and man-made disaster. Presently, we are undergoing the biological disaster, which is the COVID-19, the pandemic. There are geophysical disasters, hydrological disasters, meteorological disasters, and climatological disasters. And Cuddalore especially used to undergo the hydrological disasters like flash floods, storm surges, and cyclones. In the Indian coastline, cyclones, wave surges, floods, droughts, coastal erosion, siltation, sea level rise, seawater intrusion, severe plastic, chemical, and sewage pollution, red tide are common. Also, we have experienced earthquake and tsunami. Coastal disasters also include oil spills, pipeline leaks, submarine accidents, plastics, industrial effluents, mudslides, and volcanic eruptions contribute to the coastal and marine pollution. Although oil spill constitute an estimated 2% of the total marine pollution, they cause severe damage to the coastal environment and lead to serious degradation of shoreline and its systems. Toxin produced by the phytoplankton blooms, microalgal blooms, toxic algae, retides, and harmful algae can contaminate seafood or even kill the fish. Further, these high biomass producers can cause anoxia at some places to exterminate the marine life and the coastal ecosystem altogether. The negative effects of harmful algae extend well beyond the direct economic losses and human health impairments as diseases due to the consumption of seafood contaminated by algal toxins. Concentration of heavy metals such as mercury, lead, and cadmium in coastal waters has become a cause of great concern. Globally, 200 million people live on coastal floodplains, and about $1 trillion worth of assets lie within 1 meter of mean sea level. Over 1.2 billion people globally live within 100 kilometers of the coast and less than 100 meters above mean sea level, the area most directly affected by changing sea levels. Rapid urbanization has many consequences. For example, enlargement of natural coastal inlet and dredging of waterways for navigation, port facilities, and pipelines exacerbating saltwater intrusion into surface and groundwaters according to the IPCC. The most affected ecosystems are the coastal wetlands, mangroves, coral reefs, and it can provide the natural cover to alleviate the impact of coastal disasters. Mitigation measures such as adoption of zones, land use practices, and building codes responsible implementation are needed, however, to prevent or reduce actual damage from hazards. Awareness, education, preparedness, prediction, and warning systems can reduce the disruptive impacts of a natural disaster on communities. Disaster risk management is the application of disaster risk reduction policies and strategies to prevent new disaster risk, reduce existing disaster risk, and manage residual risk, contributing to the strengthening of resilience and reduction of disaster losses. The coastal ecosystems which need protection and management are the estuaries, the dunes, the open coast beaches, rocky shore and cliffs, coastal lowlands, mangroves, and islands, and few more. Disaster risk management. Mangroves act as the natural defenses that protect people and property from flooding, reducing coastal risk. Yet, these protective benefits are often not fully accounted for in policy and management decisions, and mangroves continue to be lost. Mangroves. To define, mangroves are the remarkable tropical plants which occur along the border of the sea, reaching up to the edges of the river to the point where the water is saline. Mangroves is also inclusive of its biodiversity, hydrology, physical, chemical, climatic, and all other related factors. It has a lot of functions. Several ecological, economical, and social functions are rendered by the mangrove ecosystem. The key functions, if we can categorize, they are the protector, the provider, the preserver. The protector. Protective barrier reducing coastal erosion, storm surges, and strong winds. Mangroves support soil stabilization, nutrient retention, filtration of sediment and pollutants, and sequestration of carbon dioxide. It reduced tsunami impacts by reducing the destructive energy of water flowing inland. Mangrove belts of several hundred meters wide have been shown to reduce tsunami height by between 5 and 30%. In Tamil Nadu, near Kadalur, we have the biggest mangrove forest. We call it as Alai Athi Kadugal in Tamil. That means Alai means wave and Athi means to suppress. So our ancestors have recently named it as Alai Athi Kadugal. That means the forest that suppresses the velocity of the waves and winds. The protector, you can see this illustration easily explains you the place where mangroves and corals play an important role in the prevention of erosion and reducing the force of the waves and suppressing the storm surge and flooding. You can easily see. The provider. Mangroves are the feeding, spawning, and nursery area for many economically important marine organisms, especially shell and finfishes.
Madam, sorry for the disturbance.
Yes, please.
All slides are Is PPT available?
Yeah.
We are not seeing any slides on the.
You're not seeing?
You're not. We are not viewing any slides.
Are you? Oh, sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute. I'll go back. I shared it, right? Again, just a minute. I'll share it again.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see it now?
No, madam.
No?
No.
Stop share. Can you now? Jesus. Oh, you are sharing. It shows it's sharing and it's online. Are you not seeing it?
No, madam.
Oh, wait a minute. Again, I'll stop and share again. Let me close it. think it's she's already sharing.
Madam, you are visible and audible, but the slides are not, we are not viewing the slides.
Stop share. On. It's not opening. Is it sharing?
Yes, madam.
Slide
Yes, only now it is sharing.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll just recap it shortly.
Okay.
Yeah. Now everyone can see the slide, right? You can check with the chat box also if they can see.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry for the interruptions. And anyway, so as a disaster, as we are talking, it's a sudden calamitous event, and there are it is classified into biological, geophysical, hydrological, and meteorological. And the Indian coast faces the cyclone wave surges, floods, droughts, coastal erosion, and similar coastal disasters. And the transformation of Earth's atmosphere through carbon dioxide emissions is driving up global temperature, which is expected to cause a string of disasters. And oil spills, pipelines, volcanic eruptions, and everything contribute to the major coastal and marine pollution. And although oil spill constitutes 2% of the total marine pollution, it's a serious degradation of coastal ecosystems. The toxins produced by the phytoplankton blooms and things also is detrimental to the coastal ecosystems. The heavy metal contamination also causes a major coastal disaster. And globally, 200 million people live on the coastal floodplains. And over 1.2 billion people globally live within 100 kilometers of the coast and less than 100 meters above the mean sea level. Urbanization is also creating a major disastrous situation, which is damaging the coastal ecosystems. And the most affected ecosystems are mangroves, coral reefs, and wetlands, which is very much useful in alleviating the impact of coastal disasters. And the preventive measures are like adoption of special zones, land use practices, building guidelines and codes, and responsible implementation of them can also reduce the actual damage from hazards. And awareness, education, preparedness, prediction, and our warning systems can also reduce the disruptive impacts of natural disasters. And disaster risk management is the application of disaster risk reduction policies and strategies. And these are the coastal ecosystems. And the mangroves act as a natural defense that protect the property of from flooding and reducing coastal risk. Mangroves are the remarkable tropical plants which occur along the border of the sea, reaching up to the edges of the river to the point where the water is saline. And it's included of its biodiversity, hydrology, physical, chemical, climatic, and all other related factors. It has several key functions, and we can categorize them into the major three: the protector, provider, and the preserver. The protective barrier reducing coastal erosion, storm surges, and strong winds. It supports soil stabilization. Mangroves supports nutrient retention, filtration of sediment and pollutants, and the sequestration of carbon dioxide. It also protected the land, inland, and the people from tsunami. And as we very much know, the forest, the mangrove forest, the Muthupet mangrove forest, which is near Kadalur, is called as Alayati Kadugal. Our ancestors have named it well with a reason, because Alai means wave and Ati means to suppress. To suppress the velocity of the waves is the function of the forest. So they have named it as Alai Ati Kadugal. So in this illustration, you can see how mangroves and the coral reefs protect the inland and the population from erosion and from storm surges and flooding. Mangroves are the providers. They are the feeding, spawning, and nursery area for many economically important marine organisms. And it's a habitat for wildlife such as birds, primates, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, etc. It also provides a major forest produce and minor forest produce like wood, charcoal, tannin, honey, alcohol, food, drugs, beverages, etc. It offers opportunities for education, scientific study, and tourism. Globally, the total economic value of mangroves, prawns, crabs, and mollusks alone is estimated at more than $4 billion per year. It's a preserver. The undisturbed mangroves maintain its original gamut of biodiversity, hydrology, and function with its pristine glory. Example, some areas of mangroves in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and some in the core areas of Sundarbans. Global initiatives have been there in plenty to restore, protect, and sustainably utilize the mangrove or coastal ecosystems. Given the current global economical turndown and shrinking financial resources, the importance of pursuing integrated win-win solutions to disaster reduction and sustainable development is more critical than ever. Mangroves reduce annual flooding to more than 18 million people. Without mangroves, 39% more people would be flooded annually, and flood damages would increase by more than 16% and $82 billion. Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, China, and the Philippines receive the greatest benefits from mangroves in avoiding flooding of people. China, USA, India, Mexico, and Vietnam receive the most benefits in terms of annual avoided damages to property. This picture is from Muthupet mangroves. Mangroves reduce exposure and vulnerability. The countries that receive the greatest overall risk reduction benefits from mangroves are Guinea, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, and Madagascar. Mangrove also faces threats like pollution, deforestation, fragmentation, large-scale mangrove conversion, and sea level rise. The main drivers underlying the threat are increasing populations and development in coastal areas and climatic change. The rate of sea level rise has doubled from 1.8 millimeters per year over the 20th century to 3.4 millimeters per year in recent years and would impact the mangroves seriously. Under projected rates of sea level rise, they predict that the deficit between accretion and sea level rise is likely to commence in the next 30 years. Therefore, based on the benefit received and to achieve the maximum ecosystem services from mangroves, it's important to address the issues rationally and preserve, protect, and sustainably utilize the mangroves. India has a long tradition of mangrove forest management. The Sundarban's mangroves, located in the Bay of Bengal, were the first mangroves in the world to be put under scientific management. The area's first management plan was implemented in 1892. Based on the UN FAO's guidelines, a mangrove management plan should have the principal things in the management plan. There are 9 principal factors. 1, wood, non-wood, and aquatic resources are managed in an integrated way and used to meet local, regional, or national needs. Number 2, the plan must be objective oriented. Number 3, plans must try to achieve the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the long run. The ecological carrying capacity should never be exceeded, and resource sustainability should be given high priority. The need for the conservation and biological diversity and wildlife should also be recognized in any of the mangrove management plan. Planning is an ongoing dynamic process. So in that management plan, there should be a flexible space to accommodate the new value changes and the information when the system is dynamically moving. And the plan must provide improvements in data collection to reduce areas of uncertainty associated with an incomplete or weak information base. The things should be made in phase or implemented in phase so that the corrections or the error can be avoided during the implementation period. The decision-making process must be visible and equitable. There's a difference between equality and equitability. You can see that through the illustration. The planning functions and responsibilities should be spelled out very clearly so that during the implementation time, no one will have the problem of understanding that who is going to do what and what will be the impact or what will be the outcome of the project or what will be the outcome of this management. So all those things will be clearly mentioned in the management plan. Mangrove restoration. This is one of the science which is much confused or less understood among the scientific community or the ecosystem managers or practitioners. Mangrove restoration can be a highly cost-effective strategy for risk reduction. Hundreds of thousands of hectares have already been restored in several countries around the globe. He's Robin Lewis. This is in Sri Lanka mangroves. The mangrove rehabilitation efforts are often hampered by the improper matching of species with hydrological conditions. You can see in the picture that the plants have been planted in deep waters, which will die in future due to long submergence. So you have to find the right species on the right location so that it will survive on a long run. So probable predation, poor soil conditions, acid sulfate soils, which can develop after weeds, and the cost, which can range from few $100 per hectare to more than 100,000 per hectare. The cost needs to be weighed against the many benefits provided by functioning mangrove ecosystems to a wide range of stakeholders. However, the participatory mangrove planting project with narrow canal constructions in Andhra Pradesh they have spent around 3,50,000 rupees for 10 hectares. Some long time ago, the project is quite an old project. But elsewhere in other areas of the globe, the cost is estimated to be around $3,000 per hectare to 5,000, sorry, 5,10,000 dollars per hectare. This mangrove restoration, basically in general, turns out to be a major planting drive. Restorations means you have to totally bring back the ecosystem in its functional conditions to render all its services in a full-fledged way. But nowadays, we are just planting rather than restoring the ecosystem. So major planting drives with high targets up to 10,000 and more hectares are being targeted in recent years. To achieve that target, we are stripping the seeds from the same strands for years and years, thereby interfering with the natural future stand, as well as the planted mangroves also would not survive in a long run. So while planting, we need to understand so many things, and the restoration is a very important science a student should concentrate on now. This is one of the restoration site, or sorry, it's not a restoration site exactly. It's a planting site in Pichavaram. Yes, yeah, it's in Pichavaram. So in 1996, it was planted by some of the leading organizations who are into mangrove restoration. And on the left, you can see the feeder canal, and on the right, you can see the fishbone canals. And after these years, it has again gone back to its Sveda swamp. Earlier, the Sveda swamps were converted into fish bones and water was let in and planting was done. And there was a big flourished mangrove forest was existing due to the project activities. But later, now in these years, it has again gone back to its original Sveda swamp, and all the water or canals and everything has been silted. So monitoring of projects is very important once you do planting. And mangrove restoration project should always have the three cornerstones. One is coastal protection. The other one is it should support the biodiversity. And third, it should support the community involvement. So these three together would form a best restoration project and a best restoration effort. So we would advocate, instead of planting projects, we would advocate ecological mangrove restoration. The ecosystem functions should be understood to its fullest extent to conserve the mangroves. Every site needs to be understood for the reasons of degradation, pressures in existence, hydrology, and the tidal implications, substratum, and species preference. Reason for the destruction or standardness may vary from different categories of pressures, such as free grazing, lopping, cutting, improper inundation, hypersalinity industries, urbanization, and etc. Planting process is needed only to facilitate or hasten the process, or if the site has steep limitations. Otherwise, planting is not generally suggested or recommended in ecological mangrove restoration. However, if the hydrology restored in reference to the natural mangrove forest occurring adjacent to its site, natural pioneering species, colonization, and biodiversity succession would subsequently succeed. The initial strategy to restore an ecosystem is to conserve the existing mangrove patches, and if necessary, planting interventions may be facilitated as a last abode. Restoring a mangrove incorporates re-establishing the physical environmental conditions like regrading the slopes and elevation, reviving the earlier hydrology of the system, addressing and resolving the problems faced by the chosen location, floral and faunal composition with its glorious services, both ecological and economical. This illustration is by Robin Lewis in the United States of America. You can see earlier it was mangroves and there was some problem and the hydrology was arrested and the mangroves dried. So now the hydrology was opened and you could see the mangroves have again flourished in the same place. This is another case study from Myanmar, where I was a project lead for a UN Food and Agriculture Organization funded project in Myanmar in the Mumbai Reserve Forest. So we have facilitated ecological mangrove restoration in 4 hectares. And you could see in the illustration that this was happened because for agriculture, the hydrology was stopped and they were doing agriculture in the places. But now after that, it is all damaged and lying barren. And we again opened up the hydrology and regraded the channels. And now you could see how beautiful it has become. And within 9 months, you could see a 16 species automatically colonized in the area, and it has become a big forest now. So when you restore mangroves, it is not only trees, you have to restore the entire system along with its fauna and its flora and the physical and chemical parameters of the system. And this is a pioneer model in India. It's mangrove integrated shrimp farming. And for you, it's very much near Kadalur. This area is in Sirhali, Perundotam village. This farm is owned by Bismi aquaculturists, and this is one of the leading and the unique and a pioneer model in India for mangrove integrated shrimp farming. Here you could see the mangroves were planted in the effluent treatment plant and also on the outlet channels. And the water quality is being tested by the Pollution Control Board and have testified that it is the best water which is going out because the nutrient load from the aquaculture ponds is being utilized by the mangroves all along the ETP and the outlet canals. You can see more than 1 lakh mangroves from 7 meters tall, and more than 7 species are existing right there. And you can see people are dependent on mangrove waters for fishing, and the quality and the quantity of water, the shallowness will not be good for the mangroves. So the siltation due to damming and damming in land and the less water, fresh water flowing into the mangroves also will be detrimental to the system. So there should be full-fledged flushing of water, fresh water flowing through the mangroves to the ocean, so that there will be enough water holding capacity in the forest, so that would have more value for the waters and improve or increase the fishery resources. So if it is not, and if the siltation is going on happening, if we are going on damming the lands and we are not allowing the fresh water to flow into the mangroves, obviously in due course it will become the one like the bottom slide, and later on we have to look for the future of the fish and also the fishermen and also our protection. So in a nutshell, coastal disasters can be mitigated by managing the existing ecosystems rationally. The causes of damages to natural coastal resources should be managed properly with better management plans, especially the mangroves on the muddy coast with its all ecosystem services should be protected and managed as functional ecosystem to render its full value services for a long run. Awareness and disaster preparedness is important. Protection of forests should be the major initiative. Planting mangroves and related threats need high-level attention. Climate adaptive restoration of mangroves shall be the last aboard, and monitoring of any natural resource management project is important, and protect mangroves and mangroves will save you. Let us be responsible to protect and conserve the natural resources before it reaches the point where it cannot be restored. Thank you for listening. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, madam, for your informative and beneficial talk. Your talk is contagious like COVID-19, but in a positive way. Only today I came to know the Dalai Arti and its meaning. In spite of residing in the nearby area for a long period of time. Once again, I thank you for your wonderful session. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Any questions from the participants? If you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box. I think it is very well informative and no one has questions. Madam, there is a question from Ashwin Pradeep. Can there be any possible practical way of eradication of existing plastics from mangrove and water habitats?
Yes, there are two things we can do. One is stop polluting with plastics or stop using plastics. And number two, of course, we have to clean up as a first step, we have to clean up the things. And then later, we should not pollute them. And how to clean, it depends on the system, how it exists, and what about the situation. The people, the local people can jointly together, or the youth of the system, of the neighboring areas can jointly together, can clean up the things. They can initiate the local government to do the things. It all depends on the capacity of the local people, or the youth, or the scientific community, or the political people. So it's up to a good leadership to deal with it and do the things.
Another question from Haripriya.
Yes.
Does plastic is used for roads?
Yes, nowadays plastic is used for laying the roads, because they just basically, I don't know how to say it, because whether it is useful or not, one way it is useful or beneficial to dispose the plastic, but the plastic roads probably would not allow the water to soak in and something like that. But still, it is a good way of disposing the existing plastic in the from the environment.
Another question from Dr. is Anbaragan. Is there any other plants available like mangroves?
Where? For what?
He has not asked any other relevant questions. Only, is there any other plants available like mangroves? Okay, the question itself is absurd. Does all the mangrove plants show viviparous germination? It is from Deepak Sasmal.
No, not all mangroves show vivipary. Not all. There are only, yeah.
How mangroves be grown in coastal areas coming in urban areas? Is it possible, ma'am?
In urban areas?
How mangroves grown in coastal areas coming in urban areas? But it is not relevant, I think.
Yeah. Urban areas, it will not come. We have gone and built the houses in the mangrove area. So we are thinking that mangroves have come to our place. No, we have gone to the mangrove area and built our houses, and we are having mangroves in our backyard or somewhere else. Maybe like Mumbai, Navi Mumbai area, it's totally, it's under the mangroves. Anything else, please?
Just a minute, ma'am. Ma'am, is it possible to control the tsunami or sea wave if we create green wall with mangrove trees? It is from Nafisa Khatun.
We can't 100% say that we can totally arrest things. But if we have a large expanse of mangroves, and those things can suppress the waves, because when the waves come, if there is a solid substance between the waves, it can basically, it will subside. The velocity of the waves will be lost. But the tsunami waves, the height of the tsunami waves are too high, which if suppose if it comes ahead of beyond the mangrove things, then you cannot help much. But still mangroves will help to reduce the damage. But if there is no mangroves, obviously this waves will come easily and just totally take away or carry away everything, or it will wash out everything. If there is a mangrove belt, if there's a big mangrove belt, the damage will be less. If there is a very narrow mangrove belt, may not be, it may help, may not help, that depends. So nowadays what people say is, yeah, just we can have some 50 meters of mangroves and the rest of the places we can take away for urbanization or aquaculture or industrialization whatsoever. But this small portion of the land, portion of mangroves, cannot do much of the valuable ecosystem services like what it can do when it is in the larger expanse. So the value, it depends on how much mangrove expanse we have. That only can, and also the velocity of the waves or the height of the tsunami waves can only determine whether it will be helpful to whatever extent it is. Yes.
Thank you, madam. And another question from D. Priyanka. Why mangroves are called kidneys of ocean?
Kidneys of ocean. Because mangroves basically, when the water comes in, the mangroves basically clean up all the nutrients. So whatever the nutrients coming up, it is cleaned up or utilized by the nutrients of the whichever is coming and flowing into this area is being utilized by the plants and the flora and the fauna and all those things. And when the water is flowing into the ocean, it is flowing in a very it's a clean water, or less dirtier water is flowing into the thing, and it gives more oxygen. It is helping to sequester more carbon and all those things. So by the time it goes off, it, without mangroves you can't basically breathe much. So the ocean is mangroves are helping much in the ocean livelihood, the ocean's life.
Thank you for your explanation, madam. And another question, which plant and animal species do the mangroves support?
There are a lot of species. There are around 80 species, including the hybrid varieties of flora only in mangroves. And almost around 70 of them are in Orissa itself, in Orissa Bitakanika mangroves. And the fauna, there are a lot of flora fauna because the birds. For example, if I could say in Muttipete, when I was doing my PhD, there were around more than 163 fish species which was utilizing the mangrove waters, both migrant and resident species. And the birds, there are around more than 115 species of birds which are using resident and migrant or seasonal and all those things. Similarly, the feral cattle, jackal, otters, the amphibians like there are water monitors, snakes, and so many species, right from the small insects borers, like so many n number of biodiversity is utilizing the mangroves. Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you for your explanation, madam.
Yeah.
Another question from Vishwanathan Periyannan. Is there any pharmacological properties?
Pharmacological properties. There are a lot of studies being carried out on mangroves. So probably you can please check on the check on Google or the catalogs, whatever the research research documents. Yes, there are a lot of things being done.
Thank you, madam.
Yes.
Are there any policies directed at protection and conservation of mangroves?
Yes.
From Chandu Gani.
Yes, there are a lot, because we have whatever the biodiversity loss and all those things, everything is applicable to this mangroves, and the mangroves are also a notified plants which you cannot damage without a prior permission.
Participants, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, you can raise your hand or post it in chat box. What are the threats that mangrove ecosystems face? You have explained everything, I think.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Or they can Google it out. It's not a very big
Oh, yes, madam.
challenging stuff.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, madam, for your wonderful and nice interactive session. We enjoyed very much. And I think the participants, each and every participants to enjoy very much. We have participants from Jammu and Kashmir, Meghalaya, Tripura, almost all the states have registered. And I think all people have enjoyed this session very much. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Now it is time to express of gratitude. Without expressing a gratitude, a session will never end. And now I call upon Dr. P. Amudavalli to propose the vote of thanks. Welcome, Amudavalli.
A very good evening to one and all. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the Department of Botany. Gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have. On the recollection of so many great favor and blessings, we now with a great sense and of gratitude offer a sincere thanks to Almighty, the comforter and the preserver of his countless blessings. Now, it's my privilege to thank our chief guest, Dr. Deva Ashwin Stanley, for graciously accepting our invitation and consenting to be the speaker of today's function. Madam, your presence today is a great source of knowledge to all of us about the mangroves. Thank you once again, madam. I express my sincere thanks and gratitude to our respected principal, Dr. Mullai, Dr. K. Mullai, who continues to inspire us to work with zeal and dedication. High benchmark you have set for ourselves, and your attitude helps us to excel in all endeavor. Thank you, madam. A warm thanks goes to our beloved HOD and the convener, Mrs. T. Vasanti, for her vision and commitment to work and its execution. Thank you, madam, for your constant directs of motivation. Behind every successful program lies manifold attempts of your committed faculty. I take this opportunity to thank and acknowledge Organizing Secretary Dr. M. Elbama for her immense contribution and dedication throughout the webinar for its grand success. My special thanks to the coordinators of this program, IQAC members, other faculties and students. Finally, a special thanks goes to the participants for your overwhelming response for making this webinar a grand success. Once again, I thank one and all. Ultimately, the greatest lesson that COVID-19 can teach humanity is that we are all in this together. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Amdavalli. And we have come to the end of the session. Really, it gives me great pleasure to watch such a session. Really, it is mind-storming, and it is much needed in this hour. Once again, I thank the resource person and all the faculties and the participants, and particularly our principal, Dr. Mullai, and the interim administrator, secretary of Pachapas Trust, IKC team, the committee members, and each and everyone who helped us to host this session. Once again, I thank each and everyone who participated in this program. Thank you very much. Participants, don't forget to send your feedback. That will help us to upgrade us, and it is essential to get the e-certificate. Thank you. Thank you once again. My heartfelt thanks to each and everyone who contributed for this program. Thank you.